Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Noona's Noonchi podcast, where I invite special guests, super excited about today's special guest, to talk about all things K-dramas, deep dives, reactions from a mental health perspective, and more. Today, I have with me award-winning podcaster and speaker, Sheena Yap Chan, yay! Who
Hey, Jeannie.
I got to know through the Boss Up books. She's part of the Asian Women Who Boss Up, as you can see, and the International Women of Color Who Boss Up book, which is the book I'm part of. So it's been super awesome. And then I don't know how we got on K-dramas. We're gonna have to talk about that, but somehow we went down that rabbit hole and have not looked back. So we'll start there. So Sheena, thanks for being here. Noona's Noonchi. You're like I would say you're a pretty avid K-drama fan.
Yes.
But you're
yes.
fairly new. You're fairly new to it. So how did it all start?
Yeah, first off, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I really love it. And I love that you use K-dramas to promote mental health, because K-dramas do a very great depiction of, what we go through as human beings in general, right? This can really relate to any single person. Of course, Asians for sure. It's very relatable. And really, I started my K-drama journey from the pandemic. I remember seeing, a huge buzz about what's that show? The one with Hyun Bin. Crash Landing on You. Yes. So I started seeing everybody talking about it. They're like, oh my God, it's so good. Oh my God, it's the best thing ever. And a part of me was like, I do want to watch it. At the same time, I don't want to watch it because I know once I enjoy it, I'm going to start going crazy. Like I'll just go down this rabbit hole of K-dramas. But
what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that, but sometimes it's like there's more to life outside of K-drama as well. Sure. But So my best friend was like, you definitely need to watch it. If there's one K-drama you watch, it's Crash Landing on You. I'm like, okay, fine. I bit the bullet. I started watching K-drama, and I've never cried so much on a TV show, on any TV show. And I don't even know half the time why I was crying. I was having heart attack. I was crying because, they leave you with these cliffhangers on every single episode, and the storyline was just amazing. And then I was like, oh my God, now I got to start watching all these other K-dramas, right? So I really did go down this rabbit hole, and especially during the pandemic,
right?
When everything was closing down and it was like a twilight zone and we didn't know what was going to happen. I also went through this little weird depression of like thinking the world was going to end. So I was like, I'm just going to watch K-drama all day and not really care about anything else. And we all gone through something, right? And I think it's important to talk about this because mental health is really important, especially, Asian culture, nobody talks about it, right? When they do talk about it, it's considered like something really bad, or it's embarrassing, or it tarnishes the family name. Most parents either ignore it, take you to a mental institute, if anything. They do one of the extremes, right? Or they avoid it, right? They just think it's not there. Or some people might think it's not real, but it is real, right? Especially in the time that we're in now. And especially our Asian community is not only dealing with the pandemic, but also the rise of Asian hate crimes, right? So I think the mental health aspect of the Asian hate crimes is actually a lot worse than the pandemic mental health aspect, because we get more paranoid. I mean, sometimes I'm afraid to go outside. I don't know if someone might attack me or not, right? We just don't know. And even if my parents like want to go out to grocery shop at 6:00 at night, well, I was like, do you really want to do it at night? And these are the things we go through. And so, just watching all these different K-dramas really helped me realize like a lot of people go through these, and they go through a huge deep dive of every single situation that you could think of, right? Whether it's going to trying to get into the best colleges, or, preserving that family name, or even women are always treated, more badly than men, right? Or having this status, like every single aspect is there. And that's why I love it. The storylines are amazing. And after watching all these K-dramas, I'm like, no offense, but American storylines are not, just can't do it anymore. Like Korean drama storylines are just amazing. I recently watched Signal, loved it. And even just the story, like, just people attacking people for no apparent reason, right? Sometimes there's just no reason as to why people do certain things, right? But they don't understand how much the mental health aspect of the victim that suffer through those things. And it sometimes makes me wonder, like, what is this world we live in? How can we make it better? We don't want people hurting all the time. We want to help them. heal, go through the, talk about their traumatic experiences. And it's
Okay.
crazy because one of the incidents in Signal happened in real life. It was based off an actual event in Korea,
Mhm.
which was
I
just
actually didn't
crazy.
see that one. I heard it was really good. I haven't.
It's really
There's
good.
so many to see, but yes, I've heard it was excellent.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good. But yeah, that's pretty much my start. It came from the pandemic. Still love it. I do take a little bit of a K-drama break just so that I'm not stuck at home watching K-dramas all day
Yeah.
and realize
Sleep
there's life
deprived.
outside
Sleep
of
deprived.
K-dramas.
Right. There is life out. And I was going to say that the reason why I tend to stop is sleep deprivation because you can't stop at one episode. You
I
can, but
know.
then it's like, I tend to watch the beginning of like the next episode just to see what happens. And then I can go to bed. It's just terrible.
Oh,
So I
Jeannie,
get it. But
I read the endings. I like to read what
oh, that's
happens in the
right.
end
You
because
like,
I have too much of a panic attack when like each episode just gets worse and worse and worse and it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And so I need to read the ending to like for peace of mind. And my
wait, so
friends
you
make fun
don't
of me
even,
all the time.
wow, so you don't even watch the K dramas that are going live then?
Sometimes I do if I really
Okay.
want to.
Okay.
Or if it's like there's only one more episode left, I'll start watching it.
Oh,
And
right.
there's some
Right.
that I haven't read, but most of the time I like to know what happens in the end, or else I'll have a heart
Oh,
attack.
yeah, yeah. Because I was watching Vincenzo as it was laying out. That you're right. It's harder to watch them as they're unfolding because it's a lot more suspenseful. So I get it. I'm like that too. I don't necessarily read the endings, but I'll be like, let me skip ahead. And sometimes I'll even like see certain things. I'm like, okay, at least I know this happens. So I hear you for my own well-being. That's awesome. No, thanks for sharing that about mental health. And so, yeah, I guess during the pandemic, it kind of met this need, or just everybody, I want to say a lot of folks turned to streaming devices and watching K dramas during the pandemic. So then what crash landing, but what was it? I know the storylines, but tell me emotionally a little bit, because you were even saying, oh, maybe I was depressed. Well, then how did it make you feel better? You think if you wanted to, like, if you were a therapist to yourself, and you're watching it, you're like, how did it make me feel better? Or how do K dramas really affect me? What are
I,
they doing for me?
I think it's just when they show you the backstories of every person and what they've gone through. Like it's even people who are bad in the K dramas, they do all have a backstory, right? They were mistreated by their parents, they had a drug problem, they were raped, something always happened. There was always a backstory. And I think that made me realize, like, we just all go through things, right? We don't know each other's backstory. And the more we can talk about the things we've done and the backstory behind every single situation, people can understand each other a little bit more, right? Especially when it comes to cultural things, right? Especially we always go through certain stereotypes. It's like, oh, Asian people have no emotions. Well, actually, we do, right? We've just been told not to show our emotions. And we go through so many emotions that we suppress, that we go through all these mental health issues because of that. And that's why it's so important to talk about it, talk it out, talk to a mental health professional like you, Jeannie, right? I'm not an expert in mental health, but I've been able to interview enough women who've gone through it and have similar situations. And we've all gone through some form of mental health issue. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about these things, right? Because it's needed. We need to open up. We need to show our imperfections, right? I know sometimes K dramas, everything looks picture perfect,
But
right?
they look beautiful. But no,
Yes.
actually, there are many times if you look at those stories, they're really some miserable characters that you're like, oh my gosh, what? Can another tragedy just not happen to you? And then, of course, we root for them. But you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, some of the things can be unrealistic, but we know it's a drama.
Yeah. And especially like entrepreneurship, right? If you watch like One Class and Startup, they do a great storyline of what true entrepreneurship is, right? It's not like having the fancy cars and the big house. It's really like not learning to give up no matter how long it takes. Even if you get defeated, you can find a different way to get to that end goal. And that's not always easy, right? It's not always easy to wait 5-10 years to get to where you want to be. Most people want that instant gratification versus having the long-term goal or the long-term gratification. We live in this world where if we don't get 100 likes, we're not deemed worthy, right?
Yeah.
So we need to, so this is why I really love watching those, because they have a great storyline of the struggles that a startup entrepreneur does, or any entrepreneur, no matter what stage they're in. You're going to go through disappointment, people even backstabbing you, and
Some
what it means.
failures, obviously,
Yeah.
financial failures.
And even what it means to work as a team, right? a lot of us feel like entrepreneurship, we have to be alone in this journey, but we
No.
don't really, we don't have to.
I
I
love
think
watching one class or even startups showing the teamwork, right?
yeah, and collaboration makes a huge difference, right? It
Totally.
really gives you the success you want, because now you're not, this is not just about you, it's more than you. It's, you're bringing up a bunch of other people who have similar visions as you. So,
Very important
I
to your
mean,
mental health, guys, to be part of a community.
yeah.
Not
And
be
it,
alone.
and I know a lot of us feel like we can't ask for help, we can't ask for support, especially in Asian culture, because it's deemed as a weakness. But really, asking for help is the best thing you could ever do, right? If you, invest in a coach, invest in a mentor, or surround yourself with like-minded women. That's why we created these books, right? Because it's so needed, right? It's so needed to see other women, the trials and tribulations that they've been through and how they're able to overcome it. And both books have amazing stories, right? Sometimes I'm like, when I was reading the books, like my mouth was dropping because I was like, I can't believe these happened to these women, right? And I've been talking to them for like 4 or 5 months, and when I read their book, and I'm just like, because I'm like, I can't believe this happened.
Exactly. And that's why sometimes I even think when we see in K-dramas, they're like, that's a drama, but you'd be surprised at things that we hear, or I've heard too, in real life stories that you're like, no, people go through dramatic, traumatic, crazy situations, but they can come out on top. But yes, I love that you talked about the community and how important that is. And I think, so talking along the lines of that, part of Noona's Noonchi is just honestly talking about K-dramas with people, right? Building
Yeah.
community over what we're seeing with these storylines and characters, and of course, actors and actresses that we love. So that said, I mean, when your best friend was telling you this, and now watching K-dramas, what's your elevator pitch? I like sometimes asking this. What's your elevator speech or elevator pitch when people are like, Sheena, why are you so into K-dramas? Which people don't normally wouldn't ask that because people know about K-dramas. But
Yeah.
honestly, what would you say to that person? Why do you love them so much?
I don't know. I've never had that question asked for me before. I
Right,
actually, my friend actually just watched Crash Landing on You, and never watched anything else. I'm the one who went down that rabbit hole. But,
oh, really?
I just tell
Wow.
people, the storylines are amazing, real life situations. And honestly, I think K-dramas bring so much diversity. With the amount of people watching K-dramas, I'm just like in shock as
I'm
to
in
like,
shock.
I can't believe so many people who are non-Asian are watching it and religiously watching it, like learning the language, trying to watch it without subtitles. And I'm like, this
I'm
is
like, you
amazing.
speak Korean better than me. No, I'm kidding. I think that's awesome when I see a white woman learning Korean, or an Italian person. These are people I've talked to learning Korean because of their love for K-dramas. Isn't that like, I don't know about you, but when growing up, I didn't have that. I
Yeah,
didn't have people wanting to even know about my culture.
me
So
too.
I
No,
think it's amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so tell us a little bit about your cultural heritage.
Well, so I grew up in two Asian cultures, right? I'm Chinese, but I was born and raised in the Philippines. So growing up in two different cultures, it's not always easy, right? In the Philippines, the beauty standards is like, if you're not white, you're not considered beautiful. And there's like
Korea.
huge whitening creams all over the Philippines,
Yeah, I wouldn't
big
fit in. I'm
billboards.
tan right now.
Yeah, like if my grandma sees me tan, she's like, why are you so dark? You look so ugly. But that's how they are, right? Like that's the culture that we're in. And so this is why for me, like I don't use any kind of whitening products, right? Like I actually like rather being tanned than to be more pale skin.
That's the American in us, or
Yeah,
yeah,
the Western part of us. But
Western part.
yeah, I mean, and Chinese culture, it's like, the women are just told what to do, right? It's like you go to school, get a job, get married, never rock the boat. And because of that, so many women suffer from mental health issues, right? Feeling not good enough, not being able to make a decision for themselves, not feeling worthy enough because of these things. And, women in Asia, like they're treated a lot more worse than men, right? Of like, I remember talking to some girl in China on Clubhouse, and she's like, I don't know what's worse, like the anti-Asian hate that's going on in the US or in China where we get treated like crap. The fact that she
Wow.
has to pick one or the other is not a good thing.
I mean, it's not, and that's sad, but that is the reality. We all
Yeah.
have to
And
accept that as much as we love Korean dramas or our culture, there are flaws, there are
yeah,
imperfections.
like I just read recently how in Korea there's a huge protest going on.
Mhm.
Something
Which
to do
one?
with,
On bullying or?
no, with men treating their women,
Oh, I didn't hear about that. There's a
something like
certain,
that.
okay, well,
Yeah.
that's, I feel okay. Is that very recent?
I think it happened last weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're listening to this is probably like, a little later than that, but no, I think, well, maybe that's time then, because obviously we have to change things that are unhealthy and break those patterns,
Yeah.
but that is pretty sad that that person said that.
Yeah.
And
I don't, I think both are bad, right? Why should we have to choose which one's better? Both are
no,
bad.
they're
And this
both
is why
bad.
it's important to talk about these things so we can find change, right? For
Right.
generations and generations, we've been handed down the same, ways to grow up, ways to live life, but that's not going to work, right? And it didn't work. Like more women go through mental health issues, more women go through plastic surgery, more women go through, there's more, the suicide rate of women is a lot higher than men.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's all because of this.
Yeah.
Even in China, having that one, now they don't have it, but when they used to have the one child policy, like imagine how many little girls were killed because they couldn't carry the family name. And that's just the truth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even in India, right, women get treated badly. Like if you're a widow, like you're considered like not a human being anymore. It's insane what women go through, right? And I know it's not only Asian culture, women from different cultures go through it as well, but of course we talk about our own cultures because it's something we can relate to, but we all go through similar situations. And when we can learn to work together and bridge together, that's when we can start solving these huge problems that we go through as women, especially during the pandemic, right? Women have been negatively affected than men.
Yeah.
I live in Canada. In Canada, women lost their jobs 100 times more than men.
I've heard that, and that's the case here in the U.S. as well.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Or some of them leaving the workforce to make
take care
because of the family. Right.
Yeah. And even the trend now, if we get to go back to offices, men will most likely go back than women instead of
Right.
women, because women would rather stay home to run the household. And so
Yeah.
you know how that is bad, because then all the big decisions get made in the office, right? It becomes a boys' club again. And even a couple of weeks ago, I read women globally lost an income of $800 billion from the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that big, but yeah. So then that said, if we're going to tie that into K-dramas, the fact that it's funny, the fact that K-dramas are very relatable, but yes, it's technically an Asian culture, so patriarchal, but then yet it's shifted, right? So if you could think of a couple K-dramas to encourage women, right? Because you come from that angle, talking about self-confidence.
I mean,
are there specific K-dramas that come to mind? You're like,
yeah,
this one. Go ahead.
I mean, Crash Landing on You is a great woman. I mean, Yoon Seri was amazing entrepreneur, right? Even though she was stuck in North Korea for a bit. I mean,
Right.
when the minute she came back to South Korea, she's like, back to business. How are we going to make this work? How are we going to, build our businesses again? Like she did everything from herself, right? Never got money from her parents, worked her way up, didn't even care if she got inheritance or not. But like, she's a very great, a great example of a confident woman, right? Another one, even in Signal, the lady, the main woman there, right? She was never pressured. Like, of course, her family wants to pressure into getting married and stuff, but she was more focused on helping people because she was a detective. But yeah, I'm trying to see who else is
there's ones I like. Well, even Startup, the people, I mean,
yeah,
telling me, yeah, she had to work for it, and her sister, the CEOs of companies, right?
Yeah,
I think that's so fascinating that's where we are now in 2020 to 2021.
Even the girl in Itaewon class, she was really great at marketing.
Running Kanbam, yeah, she was running it.
She knew how to market the restaurant. She knew how to fill it up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was really the brains behind it.
Encourage these women to watch for inspiration, basically, and aspiration,
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I mean, a great movie for inspiration is Navalera, a 70-year-old man trying to go, trying to learn to ballet because it's what he wanted to do as a kid. I mean, that's a great example of.
That's what I love about you, because it's because of you that I've watched some of these K-dramas. You picked some of the underrated ones, I find, that you really like. And so I'll share with everybody here. Navalera, I'll admit, I was like, there's so many to watch, right? So you have to be picky about what you're going to watch first. And I remember Sheena raving about Navalera, and I'd be like, you're raving about a ballet K-drama and then Song Gong didn't appeal to me, which people are like, what's your problem? And then obviously the 7-year-old man, I'm like, so he learns ballet. But I decided to watch it because some folks, and then I literally had some time in between K-dramas, maybe in between Vincenzo's finale, whatever. So I watched it, binged it basically and like cried every episode because it was just so touching. Yeah, they have
Yeah, and it's just it's a great lesson, right? Like at 70, he wanted to learn how to ballet, right? Most 70-year-olds would be like, hell no.
Right. They would think their life is done.
Yeah.
His life was somewhat beginning with a new talent. I mean, a new skill that he wanted to learn.
Yeah, and he was set on wanting to perform on stage. I'm sorry for anyone who hasn't watched it, but here's some spoilers. I mean, he was set, like he had it in the back of his head. He really wanted to perform a certain thing on stage, right? And they were like, well, why don't you just do this? Like, no, this is what I want. And it also shows like, you know, if you really want something, you're going to find a way to make it happen. Or there's people out there who will find a way to make it happen for you because they see your conviction, they see your passion, they see that you are working for it because they like people can see it, right? People can feel it. And so they want to help you attain that as well. And so I think, yeah, I really love Navalera. Another one I loved was Move to Heaven. Great story.
That was, yes, Move to Heaven. You guys need to watch that. Now, tell me what you loved about it and I'll tell you what I loved about it.
I loved how they unbox the stories from each case that they went through, right? Exactly. Just by looking at the things. And also, you know, the uncle, right? Like he hated his brother for the longest time and he didn't realize that his brother was doing all that he can to get him back, right? Yeah. And you know, that's whole storyline, I was bawling like crazy. I'm like in bed like this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, you cry in every episode because if folks don't know, it's even after death, we're finding people being healed through people's deaths, right? I mean, the main message, there's so many messages, but death doesn't end. People are affected by everything in any way, but you find out things, the way they do the storyline, following people's deaths and seeing how people are healed through it. I'm like, this is brilliant. I mean, you know what I mean? And that's probably why I didn't want to right away watch it because it's on the sadder end, but it's not sad. There are some stories that are sad, but it's not an overall sadness that comes out, right? It's just so touching.
It's so good. I tell everyone to watch it.
Basically, I love the K-dramas where you do have those cries, but the cries are therapeutic. So besides Crash Landings that you also cried in that one, Navalera, you're like me, you cry in everyone. Is there one that you simply bawled? Like it was just, you know, gut-wrenching crying, but it felt so good?
Move to Heaven was the one I cried the most, and Navalera, it's just like, oh my god.
Yes, that's where it gripped me. I was like, Sheena, you're right, Navalera is so good.
Yeah, I mean, most people are like, why do you want to watch a K-drama about a 7-year-old?
Yeah, I was like that because I'm like, you know, into the trendy ones kind of, but I was like, no, you guys.
But there's a deeper message to it. Yeah, right. And it's very inspirational, right? Especially it's a breath of fresh air from the pandemic. Like we just need something positive sometimes, right? All you hear is, you know, this variant, that variant. Well, why not just watch a story about this man who's doing something who's trying to achieve something that he wanted as a child but didn't get to because of society, cultural barriers, things like that.
And that's what we're talking about with mental health. I mean, Navalera was a boost to anybody. Just don't think 70 years old, I'm done. You can do so much. And I think I shared once that I know somebody who was 60 and got her PhD.
Nice.
That to me is inspirational. I'm like, okay, I have time.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many stories of women who started businesses in their 50s and 60s. Like there's a woman in China who created her own chili sauce. She's now known as the hottest woman in China because of her chili sauce.
No way.
She's a billionaire.
I hope it comes here.
I think they have it. It's famous. It's everywhere. I'll give you the name later.
Yeah, I love anything spicy chili sauce. Wow, that's amazing. And how old was she?
She started when she was 50, like to really build her empire.
See, that's inspiring. Okay, so then how about, let's talk about, you have don't you like your favorite guy? I had to bring him up.
Oh my God, now I've changed now. So I used to really love Lee Dong-wook because of Goblin.
Now it's Lee Je Hoon.
They announced Lee Je Hoon after watching Move to Heaven, and then I went on this rabbit hole of watching like movies and K-dramas that he was in.
That's why you were watching Taxi Driver. And
Taxi Driver is amazing, and that's a really great K-drama to watch when it comes to mental health, right? Like that whole.
I've heard it. You're not the only one that told me to see it, but I'm going to say it here. I will watch it eventually, I promise. But because it's on it covers a lot of stuff that I feel like in real life that I do for a job. Maybe not as dramatic as that. I hesitate to watch right now. It's just because of my own mental health, right? I like to
Yeah.
watch the more less crazy dramas because again, that's what I do for a living. So, but
Yeah. No, I get it. You need a
I
break.
need a little break from that. But no, I heard it was good. And then of course he was in but I watched a lot of stuff he's in. He's in that cutesy drama with Shinmina when he goes
Is it
back
the
in time.
tomorrow? Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't watched
it's
that
tomorrow
yet.
with you. It's just something simple and I'll watch that. But and then he was in Signal.
He was
Is
in
he in
Signal,
Signal?
yeah.
Yeah. Where's that
He
why
was
you're
a he played as a profiler, so
so he's your favorite now, huh?
he's a great actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor. No, he's a really good actor. Do you have any
Yeah.
other favorites? What did you like about Lee Dong-wook from Goblin? And
I just liked his character, I just liked everything about him. And then like he's just, I don't know, there was just something about him. And then I think it's also because we share the exact same birthday. So it just
ah,
felt like the same date and year. So I was like, he's my birthday twin.
yes, but he's in. And he was in the Tale of the Nine Tails.
Yeah, the Gamiho.
Yeah, did you
Yeah,
see that one?
I saw that one. I
Okay.
actually like the guy who played his brother. He's also a great actor.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't see that one actually. There's so many.
There's
Like I
so
said,
many. I know you
there's so
can't
many to
keep
watch.
up.
Well, I wanted to ask you, was there a specific character, even male, female, that you identify with? That you really go like, oh, I really relate to this person.
I think I relate to a lot of them.
All of them.
I
Is
don't
there
think
one that
there's one.
stands out to you, like your favorite character portrayal? No?
I don't know. Maybe I just can't remember because I've watched so many.
Oh yeah, how many have you watched since you just started the pandemic? So
At
a
least
year
20
and a
for
half.
sure.
You watched 20 in a year and a
At
half.
least, I
Good.
think.
I know somebody that watched 50
Wow.
since the pandemic. I mean, I can believe it though, because
Yeah.
there's so many. Your all-time favorite?
Goblin.
Why? I love that one.
I just love Goblin. It was a really great storyline. And
Mhm.
also I love those stories where they go back and forth, like
Yeah.
your previous life type thing.
Uh-huh.
Another one that's good that has a similar storyline is Mystic Pop-Up Bar.
You know what? I didn't see that one either.
It's
Really?
a good one. I
Okay.
like it. It has a great storyline
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
Just talking about, your previous life, and then they also uncover different cases as well, or different storylines.
And so, yeah.
And the nephew from Goblin is in Mystic Pop-Up Bar.
Yes, I do know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot about the dramas, but then again, because I like watching them one at a time. Do you watch one at a time?
I do one at a time because like if I do two, it's like too much.
Well, recently I started adding another one because some of them were live. Like Vincenzo was live, so I had to watch something else in between. I was like, I can't just not sit here. So I started mixing it up a little bit. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm a 1K drama kind of person.
Yeah.
But okay, Goblin. Yeah, I hands down love Goblin. Is there one that particular you didn't like?
Yeah, Descendants of the Sun. I didn't like it at all. I'm sorry. I just did not like it. I tried so much to like it. And just I don't know.
Okay, because I know some people who didn't like Goblin. Why didn't you like it?
I don't know. I think it was just boring for me. Like it was too dragging. I'm so sorry. I know a lot of people love it. They're like, it's better than Crash Landing. And I'm like, Crash Landing was better.
Landing was better, I think too. Wow. Okay, so you didn't like, did you finish it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Are you the type of person that stops a K drama if you don't like it?
Depends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
But
oh, really? So what have you stopped?
I don't remember if I stopped any actually. Maybe not yet.
I do. I'll be like, yeah, and it's kind of rare when I stop one. It just means it really to me didn't appeal.
Yeah.
And yeah, but interesting. Okay, no, each its own, each its own. So lastly, I mean, guess just to sum up, what are some of the things if you had to point out to people about K dramas? And yes, I'm going to have you play therapist for a second.
Oh my gosh.
Well, because you really, I mean, mental health is one of your platforms. You really like talking about it. And I'm not asking you to bring up specific K dramas, but if you had to say to somebody who is suffering from feeling depressed, maybe what would you say to them regarding a K drama that you've learned about depression? Because you even talked about that, experiencing that. I mean, we all during the pandemic, but I think some life lessons. Yeah.
I think it's just knowing that we all go through it. And it's, especially learning people's backstory, the traumatic experiences we go through. Like we all go through some form of traumatic experience, but we also can overcome it. Right.
Yes.
We can heal from our traumatic experiences. Yeah.
Right.
And you don't have to do it alone. There's people out there who will help you, even though sometimes the things they do might not be something you would do in real life, like in Taxi Driver.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
because
of the
there's
premise
all
of
about
that. But I
revenge
heard
and
it was
stuff.
based on real life cases. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe that's just like signals. Some of the cases they have was based on real life.
sure, which is
Um,
scary if you think
it is
about
scary. Yeah. When
it.
I was reading one of them, I was like, oh my God, this is horrific. I can't believe this actually happened.
See, that's why I'm not watching it.
But yeah, I think also learning that, there's someone out there who can help you as well. Like you don't have to do this alone, right? I mean, it's okay not to be okay. I know a lot of people sometimes find that creepy, but they still helped each other out with their own traumas that they went through,
True.
right? They
Great
weren't
angle.
alone in it, regardless how depressed they were or whatever they were going through. They were all in it together. It didn't have to be a big group. It was just like 3 or 4 or 5 of them, right?
Mhm.
So I think
True. Thank
I
you for
think
sharing
having
that. That's a
I
great
think
thing.
I think having support is really important, right?
It is.
Support is really what helps us uncover some of the traumatic things we go through, helps us heal along the way, and realize we don't have to do this alone. We don't really have to do anything alone. And I know support is something most people crave for, but are too afraid to ask, right? Especially,
Especially in our culture, yeah.
yeah,
So I
seeking
love that you said
professional
that.
help, right? They think that's like, are you crazy? Like, why do you need to do that? Like, there's nothing wrong with you. But just because you're seeking professional mental help, like it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Sometimes you just need an outlet to just kind of let it out and have someone who can see it from a different perspective, because we all have, a blind spot, right? Sometimes we don't see
Oh,
it,
I love
right?
that.
And
Yeah,
sometimes we need a second opinion or a third opinion to uncover it and realize, oh, I didn't see it that way. So
I love
it's
that. A
just like,
blind spot.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like driving, right? We have rear view mirrors so that we could check out our blind spots. We have
Yes,
to see
thank
it the
goodness
same
for
way.
those. I love that you share that and the fact that you brought that up, especially when it comes to depression, because people can feel alone. So thanks. So thank you, therapist Sheena, for sharing that.
Thank you.
I was actually going to wrap up. What's your current favorite K drama that you're currently watching?
Oh, I just
What's
finished
your-
Signal actually, so I don't have anything
What's on
right
that?
now.
Okay. So is there a next one on your list?
I might watch the one that's where he travels in time. Is it
Oh
like
yeah,
Tomorrow with You?
Oh yeah, you're really on an Lee Je Hoon craze.
I'm telling you, I went down this whole rack. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's so hot. And he's such a great actor. And I love, and like, especially in Taxi Driver, he was so cool. I'm like, oh my God, he's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's good. He is a good actor. Awesome. Yes, Tomorrow with You is much more chill,
Lighthearted.
a
Yeah.
romantic comedy. Yeah, or not even romantic comedy, maybe romantic drama. But
Yeah.
highly recommend that. Cool. Now, any last words for the audience regarding your love for K dramas, or what would you want to tell them? Any last message for
Oh
them?
my God. Just watch one, at least one, right? Start with Crash Landing on You, like me, and
Yeah,
then
that's a good one to start with. Yeah, you need to go backwards too, Gina. There's a lot that you need to see.
oh, I've watched the one where the girl was a mermaid.
Oh yeah. Legend of the
With
Blue Sea.
Yeah, I've also watched My Love from the Star.
Yeah, that's a good
I've
one.
watched
Well, that's a good one.
Inheritors.
Of course.
Yeah,
Well, you saw Boys Over Flowers.
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, that's a cute. That's an old one, but it's a classic.
I know sometimes if they're too old, I'm like, do I really want to go
It
back
is.
that far?
You're right. You're right. Because your 2009 is kind of on the older end when we have so many K dramas.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you said that, watching a K drama. Though I'm thinking so far, I haven't really met somebody. Well, there's some people who don't watch them, but there's a reason why it's such a global phenomenon.
Yeah, and it makes you want to go to Korea and eat Korean food all day.
Yeah,
That's just me.
we should plan a trip.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm
Well,
down.
I'm so glad you joined us. Thank you so much, Sheena. Thanks for listening, guys, to the Noonchi podcast. Again, award-winning podcaster, speaker, Sheena Yap Chan, talking about how she started watching K-dramas in the pandemic. And we're not going to say rabbit hole. It is now one of her favorite things to do, right?
Yeah.
And there's obviously, you guys know it's one of my favorite things. So thanks for joining the Noonchi podcast. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
You can listen in on platforms such as Spotify, Pandora, Google, and Apple, but also watch the podcast on our Noonchi YouTube channel every Monday, where it launches at 6 p.m. Eastern.